welcome. Session 6 of TCCA 2020. And as you all know, this is our 10th year doing TCCA. And we have been taking to the future. We have taught like pirates. And this year we will focus on 2020 vision. So with me is Ms. Joanne Rivera. She is my co-host. She will check on questions you may have. They will go into the YouTube chat and we'll answer them like after Ms. Reed is done presenting. And we still have a few sessions to go today, and it's my honor to introduce our presenter, Ms. Jessica Reed. She will focus on one of the most, if not the most important topic in every classroom, and that is collaboration. So Ms. Rivera and I will go backstage, follow the session, be back at 1:40, and also we'll give you the secret word, and that at the end of this session. So Ms. Reed, the stage is all yours, and you're ready to go. Take it away.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Jessica Reed. I am so excited to talk to you about collaboration. My Twitter handle is Kentucky Girl in Alabama, and I'm a Google certified trainer and a Google certified innovator from the New York cohort. That was a year ago before all the crazy COVID stuff happened. Both are great programs. Love being a trainer and an innovator. I'm very into Google, and I'll explain more about that in just a minute. Let's get started. Okay, so who am I? I just introduced myself. I am a middle school special ed teacher, and I'm actually currently in my school. I have a 3-year-old who likes to participate with me when I do conferences, and I couldn't handle it today, so I came to school and for better Wi-Fi. I love to talk about any and everything Google. I am a special ed teacher. I've been teaching for about 12 years. I've been a special ed teacher probably about 8 of those, but I do have the general and the special ed background to have. And I currently teach resource. I do 6th, 7th, and 8th grade ELA, and I also do one inclusion class. So I do a little bit of both. And I am our lead teacher, so I get to do all kinds of fun things. I love teaching language arts. That's why I love doing resource, because I still do all of the SPED things. Resource is hard though, because I am in my own room. So I love when the opportunity happens to have inclusion, because that means I get to collaborate. And we'll talk some more about that as we go through. All right, so we're going to mainly focus on collaboration, especially for students with special needs or ELL students. We are going to talk about some different apps and things that I actually use in my own classroom or that I've used in a collaborative setting, because I always think it's important whenever you have a presenter, as long as they can talk to you, which is great, you want to make sure that they really know what they're talking about. Like, what do they actually use it for? So everything I've talked to you about, maybe except 1 or 2 things, are things that I've actually used in my classroom, which is what I think is really cool about when you present and share other ideas, you're collaborating. But collaboration allows us to know more than we are capable of knowing by ourselves. This is a quote by Paul Solaris. I think that hits to the heart of collaboration. Collaboration makes your classroom better. Now, granted, it can be good or bad, and that's just how you handle the interaction in the classroom. Collaboration is key. I'm going to keep saying that over and over and over, but it is key to ensure that our students are making and learning different things. All right, what are we going to talk about? What is this woman talking about? We're going to talk about how collaboration is key. See, keyword. Different Google applications for students and how to avoid frustration for all. How do I use it in my classroom, and then some apps to help you in your classroom. And while I'm sharing ideas, the really cool thing I like about these type of conferences is you can take what you learn and apply it to your own classroom. I'm hoping you can take something and use it Monday morning, 2 days from now. So definitely, if you have questions, please let us know in the chat. I'll be more than happy to stop and answer anything. Okay, so collaboration is not a new concept. As we increase in technology in this COVID world and PBL activities, students need to be able to work with one another to achieve a goal. We need to be able to work with one another as teachers. It just works for everybody. Okay, my biggest thing, and I'm a special ed teacher. I am a sister of a student, a sister of a brother who had an IEP. My daughter recently has gotten an IEP for speech. It doesn't matter what type of student a kid is. If they have some type of accommodation, you have to build that rapport and that relationship. And it's really important. Collaboration helps that because they build relationships and understanding in the classroom. It's our goal as teachers to figure out what our kids need and how we can meet them there. You know, kids with special needs are already coming into your classroom at a disadvantage. So it is a struggle. I know it's very hard in the inclusion classroom because you have classrooms of 30 kids. How are you really going to meet all those different needs? What's really cool about collaboration is being able to have someone who is thought to be a master SPED teacher or a master teacher of this knowledge, and you're the master content knowledge, and you guys get to work together. It makes collaboration, makes your life easier, or it's supposed to. It's supposed to make your life easier. All right. Key to any and all collaboration is going to be communication, whether it's between student and teacher, or teacher to teacher, or teacher to paraprofessional, or pair, or whatever your classroom assistant may be. We have to be willing to talk and learn from each other to make any type of positive learning happen. Often this may mean reflection and even rethinking things. So that may mean that you think you have a great lesson, but maybe it really wasn't for all of your learners, and not just for kids with IEPs. Even kids who are gifted. A lot of times we forget those kids who are really, really smart and who can exceed our expectations. We try to focus on meeting the needs of everybody, but they seem to always to be forgotten unless you are intentional with your planning. So you have to be willing to really reflect and to think, how can I make this better? How can I make it work? How can I communicate with my co-teacher better rather than talking about her to someone in the teacher's lounge or writing a nasty thing on Facebook? You have to have a good communication with each other. All right, so why do I talk about Google and Google Classroom? In my school district, we use Google Suite and Google Classroom. So that's what I'm most used to and feel most comfortable sharing about regards and how I use it in the classroom. I am excited to learn about other things, but that's what I'm more passionate about at this moment. All right, some different Google ideas that we're actually going to talk about. There are different applications that are great for collab with teachers and students, and that's Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets and Forms, and Google Sites. All right, so here are just some different ways that you can actually have your students collaborate with one another, or even you can collaborate with the kids or vice versa. I will go ahead and give you a heads up that you need to make sure to have your kids know what they're doing. So you're setting up some norms, because it's not fair to hand a kid a Chromebook and say, okay, go ahead and open blah, 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 and expect them to know what to do. So this is something that you have to practice and teach, especially kindergartners. Even though our kids know how to do a lot of stuff, it's something that they have to know how to practice. They know how to have to be appropriate, digital citizenship, all that good stuff. So in ELA, you can have the students create essays, and then you can have peer editing going on through the comments and revisions and etc. It allows them to be able to kind of build a rapport with one another. And it also gives you an opportunity to kind of see what they're thinking when they're peer editing as another person who's reviewing the material. Kids are able to work on like reading comprehension packets and answer questions back and forth. Packets are not always the best thing to use, but sometimes you do just need a review material, and this is one way to do that. Students can create an interactive study guide similar to a HyperDoc, which I'll talk more about, to be shared with one another, and appropriate hyperlinks and activities. I love anytime I can give ownership of an activity to my students, and SPED students are the same way. If you can offer them an opportunity to take control of their learning, they're going to do it. They are going to feel like, oh, okay, she's not making me choose. It's just like, with a toddler having point A and point B. You giving them two choices, while both choices are intentional, this is going to let you get better results from your kids. And then for math, if you have students who, especially in middle school, we struggle a lot of times, some of the kids, for students with disabilities or ELL, will struggle. If they're struggling with reading comprehension, they're going to struggle with math word problems because of the vocabulary. So this could be one way that you could have the kids work on word problems in groups or even at home, and then you can respond to their answers and provide feedback and etc. It is just something that's very easy. You can share a Google Doc with everybody. It can be really good to do. All right, so Google Slides. I think my favorite thing that I talk about is going to be Google Slides because I love to use slideshows. It is fun, and the students really get excited about this kind of stuff. You can have the students create a share deck where the students are required 1 to 3 slides based on the topic, and then you can have group participation, and then everyone presents their slides to the classes. That is one of those things though, that you have to kind of be like, okay, you are responsible for these 3, no others, do not touch, blah, blah, blah. Because in middle school, we like to magically make things disappear off of our friend's slide. You can have the students choose their own, create their own choose your own adventure and share it with the class based off of the topic in class. If you take nothing from me, coldpedagogy.com, she is fantastic. There's some really awesome resources there. Please check that out. You can have the students create a short film on a topic and then record it using either Screen-O-Matic or Screencastify. That's depending on whatever you choose. And then inputting into the slideshow and explaining. There's so many cool things that they can do. A lot of times if you have a kid who may struggle and they're able to verbalize what they're thinking or create a little short film or any of that kind of thing, they're going to maybe have a better response to you than just having to write a 5-paragraph essay. You can have the students create a book or a magazine, or if you even, we did back when we had the first COVID kind of hit our school, we had the kids create a slideshow where they were doing like a time capsule, and it was really neat because everyone was able to contribute to it, and they were able to see what each other were thinking, even if they weren't in the same room. Then you can use Google Slides to have their own breakout room experiences. This would be something if you have a student who is very gifted, you could show them how to create a breakout room using all the different applications and have them create one to share with their classmates. So these are all great ways for students to collaborate with each other. Google Sheets and Forms. You can have the students create surveys and question different topics and provide feedback to one another. They can create quizzes on forums to review with different materials and then share the results with you. Using it with math, you can use visual data in the sheets or from the forms to apply to different word problems. You can use sheets to alphabetize and sort ideas. And then they can also use sheets to organize materials for science experiments, create tables. There's so much more. If you are collaborating with another teacher, you guys could use sheets to organize your thoughts, maybe with all of one idea, all the different tabs on the bottom. If you are a lead teacher, you could even for like a grade level or a subject area, you could have different standards. These are all the standards we're covering, and that way everybody's on the same boat. You know, collaboration is not just in the classroom, it's with your coworkers and building that good relationship and that rapport. We want to make sure that the technology we're using is intentional, is not just a time waster for the kids or a time waster for our coworkers. So you want to be intentional with whatever you do. Google Slides, this is another, probably my second favorite. If you can have the students create, say you're doing a social studies project and you are having the students talking about economics and having the students do entrepreneurship and the students create a project, blah, 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 all that good stuff. You could actually in the ELA class have the students work on creating a write-up for like a commercial, having them create a site to promote the project or the business, any of those kind of things. And that's actually going to teach them some different job skills that they may have in the future. You know, we don't know what our jobs are going to look like 20 years from now, 5 years from now. So definitely something that we can give them real world application skills or project-based learning skills is going to help them. Another way is to actually have a hub where students can create study guides and share those through a Google site. Okay, forums and breakouts. You can use forums. I think I've already talked about this a little bit, but breakouts can be really fun because it can give the students a good way to review or introduce a subject. They're kind of like a hidden gem in the Google world. A lot of our kids have been to breakout rooms, like where they actually go and try to solve puzzles and do that kind of stuff. So they may be familiar with it. Maybe not now because of COVID, but this could be something. This is also a breakout room could be completed by one teacher, and that could be a responsibility that you guys share and say, hey, I'm gonna make a breakout room for this one, and then maybe 3 lessons from now you'll make one based off of that topic. So that could be something to share responsibility. Okay, this is just another idea for forums. If you have a recursive list of Google ideas or topics for kids, you can have them help them choose what the next topic is that you guys are going to teach about. Also, student reflection on activities. So maybe you have your kids working on a group project and there's always that one person who doesn't do what they're supposed to. The students could reflect upon their project and maybe share that information with you in a safe, secure spot. It's also neat to have the kids reflect upon maybe a lesson that you think is just fantastic, and it's not. The kids are going to tell you the truth, especially middle schoolers. They will not sugarcoat it for you. So this will kind of allow you as a teacher, or maybe they didn't think both of you guys were doing a great job of communicating, kind of give you like a reality check to think, okay, I need to reflect and change some stuff, which is always hard, but it's worth it if it improves our kids. Okay, this is just an example of a survey that I actually sent out to a group that I had. We used to have clubs, and I did a Chrome Squad where we did different Google applications. And this was just the way that I was able to figure out, okay, what do they want to know? What do they want to learn? Okay, collaboration for co-teachers. This is a very good SPED topic. If you are going to use Google Classroom or Schoology or Canva, or whatever you are using, if you can have a co-teacher for inclusion or a push-in model, please have each teacher participate as a teacher. This will have each teacher can be responsible for different activities. Each teacher has access to all works from the students. It allows both teachers to kind of see how the students are progressing and where there may be some difficulties or where may need a small group. When it all comes down to it, setting goal, when we have testing, both names, or at least in my area, both names are going to be on that test. And so I'm responsible just for the general ed teachers, just as the general ed teachers are responsible for the SPED kids. Should not be separated. They should be grouped together. And so if you are already setting up your Google Classroom or whatever as co-teachers, then that shows the kids that you're collaborating and that if you guys can work together, then they should be able to work together as well. All right, I love WebQuest. WebQuests are very easy to do. They can be used for many different units. They can be accessibility for all because there's different ways that you can use for special needs students. You could have a book and have it read it to them, read the article, and then post the video. That way they're able to do it. Easy access for anybody if they have the Google site or whatever website you use. I did this when I went to Google Innovator in New York. I created a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade WebQuest, and my kids it was really neat because I was able to see the progress of my kids and they were able to interact with each other. All right, I really like WebQuest, or I'm sorry, HyperDocs. Excuse me, tech problems. HyperDocs can be used as a hub for all materials attaching to a unit. This is one way that if you want kids to be able to keep up with things, they can. And you can also share that with a group of students or group of parents. Vice versa, you and your co-teacher could maybe create a HyperDoc, or maybe you have the students collaborate and create a HyperDoc together. They have ownership. You guys are able to share a bunch of resources. There are a ton of hyperdocs that you can find on Teachers Pay Teachers, or just even if you Google why reinvent the wheel. But make sure that everything you use is within the Fair and Legal Act. You never want to take someone else's credit or never do something without giving someone credit. So I have actually been using a hyperdoc this week with my small group about Edgar Allan Poe. We have been talking in 8th grade about Edgar Allan Poe and how his writing, and I'm excited because I'm going to include a link. I'm going to update my hyperdoc tonight with a link to a podcast I was given earlier today that talks about Poe. It's really nice just to have everything in one particular place, and the kids all have access to it, and they can collaborate and they can add things to it as well. All right, so collaboration is important, but to make everything good, you have to have somewhere you can collaborate with your teachers or even your students where they want to come up with ideas. But a calendar is very important, especially if you are in the inclusion setting, because you want to make sure that you have everything planned a certain way. And Google Calendar can help you with that. You can share a calendar, you can schedule meetings. Maybe your guys are going to have a planning meeting. You can send reminders to and from each other. You can invite other teachers to meetings, set up tasks. You could even teach your kids how to use Google Calendar, how, they can have tasks there. They could set up group meetings themselves if you guys are still all virtual. That way they're able to kind of figure out, oh, okay, here's our Google Meet, and that kind of thing. That may be a skill that may be more towards middle school and high school rather than elementary, but having a calendar and explaining why it's important, that is a life lesson within itself, and the kids understanding due dates and that kind of thing. So definitely check that out. Okay, one of my favorite things for collaboration, and I'm going to talk more in just a minute about how you can, some different apps that you can use for ELL and SPED. I just think Google Keep is a great way that you can communicate with your kids. Maybe you guys have a running list of different things that need to happen every day. Give them some responsibility. You can also use Google Keep with your own family, whatever you want to do. It's just an easy way to make lists. You can share with others. You can assign. If you look at mine, this is one I've shared with my husband. He needs to clean the garage out and clean all of his clothes because we don't. But it's just a really good way to do organization. And it's kind of like Post-it notes, which is what it reminds me of. Okay, a Bitmoji classroom. If you are good with your kids having Bitmojis, you guys could create a Bitmoji classroom and share that responsibility and have all those good things together. This is just a fun and creative way. I do not have a Bitmoji classroom. I don't like Bitmoji classrooms really came about when we started doing Zoom and Google and all those kind of things with this whole virtual learning. It's one of those things that when you look on Instagram or even Twitter, you can compare yourself to someone. And sometimes these teachers have all these great Bitmojis and all this kind of stuff. As a SPED teacher, if my kids have a hard time focusing in the classroom with just posters on the wall, can you imagine how difficult it is for a kid to look at a classroom and there'd be 800 different things popping up? So I didn't do a Bitmoji classroom because I didn't want to overwhelm my kids. That's one of those things. It's one of those where you look and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. But then you may feel bad because you didn't do that. You don't want to compare yourself to other teachers. And social media is very easy to do that and make yourself feel awful. You don't need to. You need to be worried about your students. You can still have a Bitmoji classroom, maybe just not so crazy, depending on whatever you want to do. But this is a really good resource. Hello Teacherly has a great resource on how to do that in Google Classroom or Google Slides. Google Draw is really neat. You can share this with your students. You can have the students actually create their own graphic organizers and other items. You can have your students use it for art. Very similar. Canva is a lot better option if you're going to have the students create like flyers or any of those things. But Google Draw is something that you can definitely try with your kids. It's fun and engaging. They can learn how to overlay shapes, build upon, and all those kind of good things. All right, Google Drive. I don't know about you, but I am really, really bad at organizing my Google Drive. So that's one of those things that I need to do. I need to make sure to keep things organized. If you share a Google Drive with people, or if you share folders, you can share folders with your kids and vice versa. It's important to make sure that things are organized. You want to make your life easier, not harder. This is something that is an ongoing task. It's similar to me. Google Drive reminds me of a kid's locker. A lot of times they can be nice and neat, or it can be a hot mess. So you want to have, maybe that would be a good collaboration with your kids on being able to check with each other. How's your drive looking? Did you organize that? And vice versa. All right, 5 ways to avoid disaster with Google things. You want to make sure to color code on docs. It can help determine who's done what. Make sure to have one folder for your classroom to share work. Use their revision history to help with editing for your kids. You might want to even add tables on different things to help with collaborations, like to show who does what for organizing. Both teachers and students can use the comment feature in slides and such to add thoughts and sheets for revisions. That is one of those things that you want to teach your kids how to do properly. All right, so how do I, Jessica, that's great. You showed all this wonderful stuff. How do I actually use it in my resource classroom with students with special needs? Well, when discussing theme, I have my students choose a color on a doc, and I just did this actually last week. And we watched 2 different movie trailers, and they are to give me a theme. If you know anything about ELA, theme is a very broad idea. It's not like main idea. Theme is something you actually have to think about. It's often a life lesson. That's a really hard concept for kids, especially mine. This was really neat to kind of see how they all collaborated and reacted to each other's thoughts about what the theme of the Addams Family, the cartoon movie, was, or Finding Nemo. It was really kind of cool to kind of see. And I think we also did a third one. We did the new Minions that's coming out sometime this year. And it was kind of cool to see what they thought the theme of the movie was going to be. I love using clips, shorts, any of those kind of things that sometimes may involve my kids focusing, because I have kids who are visual learners, rather than always reading. But we still read, just not, I'm just not a book. We're going to look here and look at the book all the time. For slides, we are going to be actually doing that this week. We are finishing up Edgar Allan Poe. We're going to talk about the Raven and then have it broken into slides and for stanzas. And then each student is going to actually be responsible for what they think the stanza means, because we've talked about Edgar Allan Poe and his background and how deep and dark he was as a writer. And I'm super excited to see what they think this part of the Raven means in today's world. And forums, I did this and it was very eye-opening. I had the kids reflect on a lesson I thought was really cool about what was the name of the book? The Watsons Go to Birmingham. We did this really cool lesson. My kids didn't like it. They didn't learn anything. It was kind of like more of a teacher appreciation lesson, if that makes sense, where I thought everything was great. My kids did not. They didn't understand what I was trying to get across with my idea for this book project. So I will not be doing that again when we read the book, when my next class reads it next February. So, and FYI, if you've never read When the Watsons Go to Birmingham or Bud Not Buddy, Christopher Paul Curtis is a fantastic, fantastic author. All right, here are some really, really cool apps and things for students with special needs, or ELL students. Google Read and Write, there are a free version and a paid version. The free option, it has text-to-speech, single word translation, and then can have practice reading out loud. A lot of times, if you have students who are going to have testing accommodations, at least in the state of Georgia, if your kids can have a testing accommodation, they have to be doing it from the beginning of the school year to make sure that they understand how to use it. And it's not something like, oh, they magically get before the test happens. So with the text-to-speech, the kids can actually listen to the questions and answers read to them so that they can listen and hear it and know what they're looking at. Premium options include a whole bunch more stuff. So you can even have a picture dictionary, which would be great for visual support for vocabulary. There's a vocabulary tool. Microsoft does have a version. It's Immersive Reader. Here's some more information, and there's this really cool resource that's linked, and I'll share this on my bio for my session on the scheduler. Nadine is a fantastic tech person. She just came out with the Dyslexia Mindset, www.dyslexiamindset.com. That was her Google Innovate project. This is how to effectively use read and write, more specifically, different ways to use it. So check it out. Very good website to use. Okay, here are some other tools that I use in my classroom. Now we're going to kind of briefly talk about how you can use those for either students with special needs or ELL students. We call in Georgia, ELL is English language learners. So that may depend on whatever your particular district or state uses, but those students who their first language is not English. All right, I love Padlet. Padlet there's a free version and a paid version. The free version, you get 3. And it's very similar to me when you had back in the day, we had the parking lot and you had the Post-it notes, like you park your thoughts. It's a quick and easy way for assessment. If you can have a student, and this is just a thought, if you can have a student wrap up in one sentence rather than write a paragraph, if they understand something, quick assessment is going to make your life a lot easier. Nearpod is a presentation tool. There is Nearpod and Pear Deck. It's just depending on whatever you choose. They're very similar. They're very different. It's how whatever your district may offer you. There's a free version and a paid version. I enjoy Nearpod. I'm a Nearpod pioneer. So there's a lot of cool things that I like to use in it. There's things that can make things interactive. There's virtual field trips and more. It has just a lot of engaging tools. GymKit, if you've ever played Kahoot, GymKit's a very similar version to it. There's a free and a paid version. GymKit's really cool right now because they have zombies versus humans. Your kids can team up and collaborate, and there's like money, and they can review and all this. It's like really, really neat. You just need to check it out. But zombies versus humans seem to get middle schoolers excited at this point. Anything that you have tech-wise for a SPED student, one day it may seem like, oh, yes, this is going to be great. This is great. The next day, they're not going to remember how to use it. A lot of times students are going to have short-term memory losses, and so they may show you that they understand one day, but then the next day they don't. So technology is great because we can kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, but it's just like anything. If you overuse it, your kids aren't going to benefit from it. So Kahoot. Students can complete quizzes by themselves or compete in teams. Kahoot's great especially for the younger grades. There's a free and paid version. If you take nothing else from me, and I know I saw Jake Miller's session earlier, please use Flipgrid. Flipgrid is this great tool. It's free. Students and teachers can respond to each other. This is super great for students who struggle with writing. If you have a kid who is like they verbally can tell you the main idea and such, but then all of a sudden when they get to write it down on paper and they can't, this is one way that they can show you that they've mastered something. Data is king, especially when you're a special ed teacher. And in the IEP, I can have a goal of like so-and-so can tell me the main idea. Maybe I can get them to record in a safe space where what they think the main idea is. Maybe they're shy. I can use that as documentation for progress monitoring. Flipgrid has a whole bunch of cool features. Please check out Flipgrid. It's very, very worth it. Pear Deck, just like I talked about Nearpod, it's just a way to make your presentations interactive and to get feedback from your kids. Both Nearpod and Pear Deck have extensions or apps that you can use within Google Slides to help promote and use. So definitely check those out. All right, BrainPop. BrainPop is a paid version, but there is a YouTube channel that you can check out. It has an interactive website, has videos and more on a variety of topics. There's BrainPop Junior and BrainPop ESL, which all 3 can be used to help your kids. YouTube is a great resource. I always enjoy whenever I do grammar, I like to use Schoolhouse Rock. Noun, adjectives. There's a song for adverbs. Lolly, 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 get your adverbs here. Talking about using the LY. Great cartoon. I grew up with it. So definitely check out YouTube. Just make sure you use it responsibly. Padlet, that's just a way, if you have kids who do great with like thinking maps, it's a way to have the students visualize, idea, and brainstorm, and they can collaborate with one another. Screencastify is a great tool, or whatever screen recorder you decide to use. I like Screencastify. We have an account with Screencastify. I've used Screencastify for several years now. The students can record information via their laptop, Chromebook, whatever. You do have to have a camera for it to work. They can learn how to edit and create different presentations. If you're looking for an app or application or website to do videos, WeVideo is fantastic. There's green screen options. There's free and a paid version. Definitely. I love any way I can engage my students multimedia rather than have them write. And yes, I know writing is important, but sometimes if I'm just trying to get them to understand one thing and master something, it can make the learning experience that much better for both of us. Vocaroo is a great site for ELL or someone who is struggling with their vocabulary. It's I'm talking about Bingo Baker. Goodness gracious, Vocaroo, it's an online recording website that can be used for conversations, etc. You can record yourself, download it. So you are recording yourself reading a story and you have stations set up around your room and you want your kids to listen to it, you can use Vocaroo. Vice versa, the kids can try, maybe have that play back and forth. Vocaroo would just be a great way for them to practice. Bingo Baker, you can create your own bingo cards for the classroom. Quizzes is just a way to review for different subjects. Excuse me for drinking. I love me some vocabulary. It is a hip hop video lesson to engage students in a variety of topics across different subjects. I fought my district. I fought to keep vocabulary for my school this year. I love it. I use it. You can individualize instruction for your kids. Great. There is a paid version. You can get some free stuff. Please check out vocabulary. It is within your pod, but you still have to pay for 2 separate subscriptions. I don't know why. I don't know. All right, here are just some other options that you can use with your kids. Powtoons to make presentations. Skype is great if you want to collaborate with maybe another class. Vice versa. Prezi, PowerPoint. I talked about WeVideo. Loom is a screen recording app that you can also use. Edpuzzle is great. It is one of those things that the kids have to watch and then they have to stop and answer the question. So Edpuzzle is something that you can definitely use and use to your advantage. There's a free and a paid version, I believe, as well. Okay, so this is a lot here, but there are some really good things here. PracticeLearning.accelerator.org is a great website. Ditch That Textbook is Matt Miller. He is awesome. He knows so much about EdTech and different ways to collaborate. Great resource. Called Pedagogy, I've already talked about her. Storyboard, that is a way for your kids to create a storyboard or a comic book strip. And a lot of times, if you can have the kids create together a storybook, maybe to show the main idea or to show what they think would happen at the end of a chapter, like make predictions, this would be a great way to do it. LindsayandLearning.com, she has just some great ways to use the Google Forms in the ELA classroom. And it's been a good tool to do. Hello Teacher Lady, this is the Bitmoji Google slide scene I was talking about earlier. Eric Curtis is great at Control-Alt-Achieve. That is his website. He has got some really cool ideas for Google tools for English language learners. You know, having an ELL student can be very difficult in your classroom because you want to make sure that you meet all their needs and maybe even their cultural expectations. It's a hard place to sometimes be because you don't want to like overstep bounds or not get frustrated or have them frustrated. So he's got some cool ideas. So definitely check it out. Reading Rockets is great for students who are, or if you have a primary school, or if you're like myself and I teach 6th grade students, but they're like reading level 2nd or 3rd grade, get some really cool ideas. Unite for Literacy are picture books for kids grades K through 2 and English text with ability to have over 45 languages. I mean, 45 languages. Tween Tribune, level nonfiction, grades 5 through 8. Tween Tribune Junior, K through 4. Newsela is great. You can get some free stuff, but there is a paid service, and they seem to have locked down more of their content for paid. So just be aware of that. And then Google Jamboard. If you've not heard of Google Jamboard is an extension or an app that you can use with your students, kind of like an interactive whiteboard. There are real Jamboards, but they are super expensive. I don't have one, but I can definitely use Jamboard to collaborate with my kids. The kids can use Jamboard to collaborate with each other. It's just a fun way to do that. So check it out. If you never heard of Slide Mania, she is awesome. This website, the girl who did it, her name is Paula. She has free templates for Google Slides and PowerPoints. There are things such as weekly agendas, weekly templates, any and everything. This is not a Slides Mania, but yeah, I typically use Slides Mania, or I think it is. I apologize, it is. Just a great way to do and use. And so definitely check that out. I've got 10 minutes, right? See you guys come back. Good deal.
10-minute warning.
Okay. All right. Here is my actual website. I have different resources, different ideas. My project that is my Google Innovator, which is about collaboration, is going to be called the Collaborative Prenup, because in my eyes, it is going to be a book where you can read about how different ways to collaborate with the inclusion and general ed teacher. The Collaborative Prenup, collaboration, at least for teachers, seems to be like a marriage. You're either going to be happy by December. Sometimes it's a marriage that you didn't want, so it's an arranged marriage. You're either going to be happy and go lucky in December, or you're going to be ready for a divorce by December. So the idea of a collaborative prenup is just that. It's a prenup that you and your co-teacher would sign to make sure everybody knows who's doing what, and it'll go into way more detail in the book. So definitely check out on my website if you're interested in that, or if you have any more questions about collaboration for that particular thing. This is my Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Love Twitter. If you ever have a tech problem or classroom question, you can definitely ask a question and you will get many responses. My PLN, my Professional Learning Network, has been great. That's actually how I heard of this conference. Was I saw someone from my Google Innovator cohort was one of the featured speakers, and I was like, ooh, that looks really cool. And so I love being able to do the virtual conferences because you get to see all different kind of cool people. And this is my personal email, jessicareed@996@gmail.com. And that is it for my actual presentation. If there's any questions,
Yes, super. Thank you. And we will go back to the question real quick. I want to point out, because I forgot earlier, the secret word to get your certificate is encourage. And it's in there. It's case sensitive. So it's a caps E. And what we heard for the last 44 minutes, tons of tools and a bag of tools that really, can, get collaboration to life. The way you figure, or the way you choose these tools in a distance learning or hybrid setting, because the collaboration in a digital classroom is much different than in your regular classroom. So that was amazing. So I made some notes of those tools. I will check out definitely. Ms. Rivera, anything in the chat?
Yes, I just wanted to find out, one person wanted to know about how to create the hyperdocs. Are those direct links to books, or how does that work?
So basically what it would be is a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word, whatever application you decide. It is going to be where you basically link everything. So it could be, there's an online version of a book, like you can find Matilda as a link for like the PDF. and that way you don't have to have a paper copy. You would link it there. Vice versa, you can add graphics to the document, but it's a hub for all of the different links for your activity. So if you have like one big unit, maybe you're doing zoology. I don't know why that just came to the top of my head, but zoology, you could have everything there linked so that the kids could be able to do it. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned Google Keep. This is a little, you called it a hidden gem, and it's a little, I would say, underlooked, but it's living in your Gmail inbox. It's just waiting for you to discover it if you haven't done so. So amazing tools. And if Miss Rivera, any further question in the chat?
No, just wanted to know, do we access your presentation? How do we do that? Because you had a sheet with several links to it.
I will update the scheduler thing just today before I leave. I'll update my profile and I'll post it on there.
And put the link to your website in the chat so you can copy and paste it if you need to. And there's a lot of information on there as well.
Right.
Super cool. So, so Miss Reed, thank you so much for being with us, and hope we see you next year in person.
For sure.
And amazing. And I made a note here for those tools. Thank you so much. And if there are no further questions, time for the second last session today. Thanks again. Thanks, Ms. Rivera. And hopefully see you soon, face to face. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everybody has the secret word, encourage, okay?